I've done a video on the hypothalamus, but I've never done a video on the pituitary. So we're going to talk about what the pituitary is and what does it do. It's part of the endocrine system. Now, it's been called the master gland, but to me, it's not really the master gland because the hypothalamus is higher than the pituitary on the echelon of order of what controls what. So I would just call it like the middleman. Okay. So you have the hypothalamus, which if we compare this to a business, it's the executive director. It holds the function of the certain plans that are sent down the organization. Okay. So with the hypothalamus, it has pre-programmed plans of action depending on the environment. So the pituitary is constantly in communication with the environment back and forth with all your perception of getting data and then adapting the various functions of the body to your environment to make sure you stay at a certain constant. So that has to do with what's called homeostasis, the ability to be stable within your environment. So if it's cold, your body's going to pick up information and adapt to that coldness. If you're being chased by a tiger, it's going to adapt to that situation. So when I say pre-programmed plans, I'm talking about various reactions that occur for various situations. So the hypothalamus is going to send down the plan to the middleman, which is the pituitary. And in a business, we would call that the manager, right? So the manager doesn't necessarily do the work of the organization, but it coordinates and gets other employees or staff to do the work. So it's responsible for coordination, giving certain people certain jobs to do and making sure that they do it. And so they're also responsible for compliance. And then we have the next echelon in an organization where you have employees or staff. They're doing the work, very specific jobs. And then when they comply to that job, the manager usually manages by statistics to make sure that that job was done. And so the statistics are the feedback that the manager and the executive director get from the workers, especially if it's a very large organization where there's a lot of different things going on. The executive director is not going to go to every single staff member and find out what they did. They're going to work through managers so they can do more work. Now, if we had a football team, we would have the owner of the team, we would have the coach, and then we have the quarterback, and then we have the other players. Now, the pituitary has a front part called the anterior part, and then a back part called the posterior part. Now, as far as functions go, 80% of the function is going to be more for the anterior part. So with the back part, the posterior part, we have two main hormones, okay? Oxytocin, which does a lot of things, but the two main functions has to do with pregnancy, the releasing of breast milk, and the contraction of the uterus. Then we have another hormone called vasopressin, which has to do with the retention of fluid in the kidney. Okay, it's called the antidiuretic hormone. So it keeps the water in the body so you're more hydrated. Now, on the anterior part or the front part of the pituitary, so we have a lot of different things going on. We have the control of the thyroid. Okay, so it tells the thyroid to release its hormone. We have the control of the adrenal, the outside of the adrenal, which is the endocrine part, the release of cortisol and other hormones. And so that little tiny part of the pituitary is going to send its communication down into the adrenals and tell it to release its hormone. And then we have another couple of hormones, which I'm not going to necessarily get bogged down with the names, but it's going to tell the gonads, both the ovary and the testicle, to release its hormones. And then we have prolactin, which does several things, but one of the main things it does is it goes to the breast tissue and it's involved in lactation, breastfeeding. And then we have a communication that goes to the liver, and that's growth hormone. And the growth hormone is going to go to the liver and tell another hormone what to do. It's called IGF-1, which is kind of an extension off the growth hormone. And then we also have two hormone-like proteins, enkephalins and endorphins, that help decrease pain. So we have the hypothalamus that tells the pituitary what to do. The pituitary then sends communication through various body tissues, releasing various hormones that create different functions. And then once those hormones do their function a communication is sent back up to the pituitary and the hypothalamus as a way of complying to the order. And so then that communication can be turned off. So as soon as it does its function, then we have a turn off mechanism going on. Now, some of these hormones are on an automatic thing. It's called a circadian wave. For example, the menstrual cycle, the sleep cycle, growth hormone elevates during sleep. The ovary mechanism happens once a month. So you have a lot of complexities going on, but the simplicity of this mechanism is similar to your thermostat. So when it's hot in a room, the thermostat adjusts and it starts cooling off, and it's all on automatic depending on what you set. So the body has certain set, stable, standard things that it operates off of, like a temperature usually of 98.6, blood pressure 120/80, pulse rate 72, et cetera, and so everything is based on these set points. And then what happens as the environment changes, your body will adapt through this endocrine system, all for the purpose of keeping you alive and healthy. All right, there you go. That's the simplicity of the pituitary. Hey, before you leave, I just wanted to give you a little quick history on some of the books that I wrote. This was one of the first books. It's called Dr. Berg Body Shapes. It was my attempt at writing about body types. What was very interesting about this book is I actually did all the images myself. Don't ask me why. They look actually not quite as professional as some of the images that I have in the new book. But anyway, this is my first attempt right here called Dr. Berg's Body Shape Diets. And then I wrote a book more extensive called The 7 Principles of Fat Burning. I don't even have a copy anymore, actually, because it's outdated. The next book, I put about 1,000 hours into this one right here called The New Body Type Guide. Major updates on the body types. I put a lot of energy into this. It has professional images, graphics, all sorts of things. Now, the problem with this book is it doesn't really describe what this is really about. Body types are only a small portion of what's in this book. And that's why I changed the name to the Healthy Keto Plan, okay? If you happen to have this book, you don't really need this book because there's only very, very minor updates. But if you don't have this, you need to get this one right here. This book goes into every single detail that you would ever want to know about. It goes into the 7 principles of fat burning. It goes into hormones, the body types, the basic keto plan. It goes into intermittent fasting. I talk about the 10 fat burning triggers and blockers and fat burning strategies with a lot of details in every single chapter. I go into body issues that interfere with losing weight. There's very few people that just have a weight problem. They have a lot of body issues, whether it's sleeping problems, stress problems, inflammation, menopause. I cover that extensively in this book. Then I talk about how to get rid of stress, and I show you a technique. Then I get into exercising. And then I have a lot of really good recipes in this book as well. So this is a good reference guide. On my website, if you get this book, you get this one free. It's called Healthy Keto and Intermittent Fasting. This is the shortcut, quick guide to this book. And the reason I created this book is to have you, within 45 minutes, learn how to do keto, okay, in intermittent fasting, exactly what you need to do. Then you can fill in the blanks with this book right here. So right now I'm doing a special. If you get this book, you get this one totally free, or you can go to Amazon and get these individually. So I just want to clarify the difference between this book and this updated one right here. If you don't have this, you need to get this right here. That way you can get the exact correct information to do it healthily.